We are live. Welcome back to the High Impact Flicks channel. No, Greasy Monkey Videos. No, it's the Here's the Deal channel. Welcome back to the Here's the Deal channel. Sometimes, I don't know if I'm coming or going. And the thought for the day is the danger is not that a particular class is unfit to govern. Every class is unfit to govern. And why is that, Brian? Because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We already know that. So when you give somebody unbridled, unchallenged monopoly on force and violence and brutality, well, guess what they do? They take you up on it and they use that force, violence, and brutality against you. And that happens, you can see that very clear in police departments. You can see it definitely in politics. You can see it in the halls of government. You can see it in the Supreme Court robed tyranny that they present. They're constantly out there taking away your rights and sticking their hands further into your pockets. And that's what we're going to kind of look at today. This was funny to me because this story came out today, actually 19 hours ago to be more specific, and a couple news channels, local stations out in Oakland, California, covered this. But I wanted to show it to you because I wanted to highlight that there could be two parallel things going on here at the same time. This could be one of those psychological operations that we have to unearth and get to the bottom of, because your definition of what the way the world is and their definition of the way the world is that they want it to be are two different things. Like, for example, if you were going to give a psychological evaluation to a cop, what criteria do you think that they would have to follow to affect more freedom and keep our money in our pockets? Because that's not the way the state looks at it when they hire a cop. They want to look at somebody who's going to be a compliant order follower, some conformist who's just going to do what he's told so that he can increase the coffers of the state, and to hell with the citizens that they're supposed to be protecting and serving. So let me know if you guys can hear me okay before we get started in this. I want to make sure I'm not just speaking into the air. I'm speaking here from the 58th floor penthouse overlooking Chicago. It's kind of rainy, but it's sunny in the background. I'm just kidding. It's just a green screen. I kind of like this. The little fires going in the background. Nice little cozy ambiance as we kind of get into this and we watch 47 deputies get stripped of their guns and their policing powers. This is great. Lenny says, first time here. This guy any good? He's no good, Lenny. He's no good. Run while you can, Lenny. Welcome, Lenny. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks, Apostolic Guy. The Apostolic Guy is a member. If you want to join the channel and be a member, I'd really appreciate it. If you want to support, that's awesome. But the best thing you can do is give this video a like and share it with everybody you know everywhere you can on social media. And that's how we roll out here. That's how we roll. So let's get into this. First, let's go ahead and look. I haven't looked at this yet. I just pulled it up right before we went live, but this is from KTVU Fox 2 San Francisco. Let's hear what they say about these 47 cops getting, basically they are on a suspension, but of course it's a paid suspension because we know that's how it would work for us. At our workplace, we would get suspended. Our company would do a little internal investigation and found that they've done nothing wrong and then give you your job back, all while you're sitting back, relaxing, having some margaritas with some senoritas with a beautiful sunscape in the background while you're getting paid on tax cattle dime. Let's listen.
Dozens of Alameda County Sheriff's deputies have had their guns and policing powers removed.
Oh no, society is going to degrade. It's going to implode because we don't have badged authoritarian law enforcers drunk in their own power walking around and harassing the rest of us.
This comes after years of performing poorly on their psychological evaluations.
All of the conduct of these deputies over the last several years must be analyzed, must be reviewed, and frankly, needs to be looked at with fresh eyes.
In some cases, some deputies scored poorly on their evaluations during their interview process, but were hired anyway. Hello again, everyone. I'm Julie Hayner.
And I might wait till you hear that. There's a little bit more unearthing of that right there. We're going to unpack it a little bit because that's hilarious right there.
Me back, the sheriff has taken those deputies off duty, but not off the payroll for now. It is a story that KTVU crime reporter Henry Lee first broke this morning, and he has more on why the sheriff felt the need to take action now.
You get that? Off duty, but not off the payroll.
47 Alameda County Sheriff's deputies now without law enforcement powers for doing poorly on psychological exams going back to 2016. KTVU has learned the deputies received unsatisfactory marks during their background checks and will now be stripped of their guns. The deputies have assignments that include monitoring inmates at Santa Rita Jail in Dublin to patrolling the streets from the Eden Township Station in San Leandro.
Essentially, what you have is a sheriff's deputy who is a walking liability, and some might say a walking lawsuit as well.
Civil rights attorney Dante Pointer.
Can you name a cop, any cop, that's not a walking liability for the city? Can you name one? And when they're talking about scoring poorly on psychological evaluations, in what way? By what measure? Who's issuing the standard? What is the standard? What are those psychological evaluation test questions? What is the psychologist actually looking for? Was he just not a good order follower? Was he not performing and raking enough money for the state? Was he not harassing enough people? Was he not making enough arrests? I mean, what is the standard for this psychological evaluation?
Says this is unprecedented.
We essentially have close to 50 members of law enforcement who are given a pass to carry a badge and a gun, and they were not qualified.
KTVU obtained a copy of the letter sent to deputies on Friday. In the letter, Sheriff Greg Ahern says his office believed they could still hire candidates who were deemed not suited for the job.
Why? What would lead you to believe that? We're gonna actually read this letter in its entirety because it's a very interesting read, not boring whatsoever. But if somebody is, quote, not suited, how could the sheriff believe that he could still hire somebody, or that he should still hire somebody who's not suited for a position he's trying to fill? That doesn't make any sense. Would you, as a boss of your own company, hire somebody that you thought was not suited to represent your company, or to do, to profit your company in any way, or to benefit your company?
Suited for the job.
Weird.
The sheriff says the deputies can be fully reinstated if they pass a second psych exam administered by an independent state commission.
We're going to lower the bar for you. We'll see if we can get you to pass this psychological eval now. We'll put it on 3rd grade level now. It was on 8th grade level. You didn't do so good. We dropped it to 6th. Let's take it to 3rd and see if you can pass it this time.
Controversy comes less than 3 weeks after Sheriff's Deputy Devin Williams Jr. was charged with murder for allegedly shooting a couple in Dublin. Authorities say Williams had been in a romantic relationship with the wife, who was a nurse at a county psychiatric hospital.
And what does that speak to right there? The information that we know, the documentation that we know, the studies and statistics that we've heard many, many times from police departments, from federal agencies, that cops are 40% more likely than the general population to be, in their words, domestic abusers. Think of that. Cops who carry badges and firearms and utility belts and a whole bunch of other deadly weapons are 40 times more likely to be domestic abusers. Is that the kind of cop that you want pulling you over? Just have a slightly bad day. We see what these cops do. They'll explode over nothing. Somebody could be as nice as they could possibly be, and this cop will frickin' lose it, pull out his taser, pull out his gun, mace you in the eyes, break your window, drag you out of the car, kidnap you.
4 sources tell KTVU Williams failed his psych exam.
The idea that there were this many people who did not have their results properly handled is very concerning.
Kara Jensen is an attorney who has sued the sheriff's office over jail conditions. She says she's also concerned about the conduct of patrol deputies who often fill overtime shifts at Santa Rita.
The way folks conduct themselves on patrol, it's very different than the environment in which you need to conduct yourself inside of a jail. So a lot of those folks are rotating through the jail.
Although the effect.
But what actions of these officers are they objecting to? Because they're not clear in this program. They're not clear from the sheriff's department. They're not clear on the psychological evaluation. What actions specifically do you object to? They're not telling us.
Deputies had their guns and peace officer powers removed. The sheriff says they will still get their pay and benefits. The president.
They're still going to get their pay and benefits. Let's go over this article real quick. It's Alameda County Sheriff's Office in Northern California stripped 47 deputies. That's 10% of the force of their guns and arrest powers. That seems pretty low to me. Like, if somebody's not going to pass a psychological evaluation from the standard of, okay, are you securing freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Are you making sure that you're not economically terrorizing people? Are you being a good person? That would be the criteria for my psychological evaluation. And I'm sure a lot of you guys out there in the audience, that's the criteria. It's like, are you putting a good face on our department? And the face that we want on there is not that you're an economic terrorist, not you're pulling over and harassing and collecting from people, that you truly are caring person, caring about their safety and caring about the fact that, hey, there is danger in this world and we want to keep criminal activity away from you. That would be the criteria for our psychological standard. What is their criteria for psychological standard? Because it seems to me that 10% of the force failing a psychological evaluation based on our criteria of just being a good person seems very, very low, because we're not talking about a few rotten apples ruining the entire bushel. We're talking about the entire bushel is corrupt, because even when a cop is not in the practice of doing evil at that roadside, theft operation that they got going on, this road piracy, it's the cops who stand by and let the bad cop do the bad thing, which makes this cop who didn't do anything to the bad cop a bad cop as well. So when you got 5 cops and 2 of them are kicking the snot out of some guy and 3 of them are standing around letting him kick the snot out of him when we would be standing there trying to pull this cop off, you have 5 bad cops, not 2. See, that's all people look at is the actions of the people who are actually doing the abusing, and not the other 3 who didn't stop the abuse when they could have. That infuriates me to no end, that people are like, well, yeah, it's a small percentage of the police force that makes everybody else look bad. You got, in all professions, you got a couple bad people. Well, what about the profession that actually requires that you harass and collect from others? Not serve and protect, but harass and collect. That is your MO. That's your modus operandi. That's what you do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're out there harassing people. You're not stopping rapes, murders, thefts. You're out there getting, for petty crime. Oh, you got a tail light out. You didn't turn your blinker on 50 feet before you were supposed to. What's going on with you? We got to conduct our fishing. Is that marijuana I smell? Hey, we got to get out the dogs. I'll tell you what, partner, why don't you give me your ID, make yourself insecure in your person's house, papers, and effects. It's got to be way more than 10%, because those people who would do that would fail our psychological evaluation. So what are these people talking about? Makes no sense to me. It was horrible to have to relieve deputies of their duties, the sheriff's spokesperson said. The station obtained a copy of the letter. We'll be taking a look at that letter in a second. Stay tuned. It's very interesting. It makes you scratch your head going, what's going on here? Notifying the deputies of their change of status last Friday. The deputies will still receive their pay and benefits. They want to make sure that you know that. The move came after the sheriff's office conducted an internal audit of deputies' psychological examinations from January 2016 to the present. The letter from Sheriff Gregory Ahern notified a deputy whose name was blocked out of the copy that the deputy had been graded D, not suited in a psychological evaluation, and under state law couldn't serve as a peace officer. Now listen to this next paragraph right here. The letter said the sheriff's office had previously been operating under incorrect advice received several years ago from the California Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, which said it could hire candidates who receive such a rating. What rating is that? The not suited rating. So this California Commission on Peace Officer Standards said you can hire somebody who's not suited to do the job you're trying to fill. Does that make any sense to you? And even if somebody gave you the green light to do that as the sheriff, would you still do it? Or would you exercise common sense and go, well, according to this psychological evaluation, he's not suited to this position, so I need to look for somebody else. Let me show you this letter. It's hilarious. I'm going to see if I can expand it for you so you can actually see it, and so that it's easier to read. So they block out this one guy's name. But it's from Gregory Ahern, sheriff, and it says a recent internal audit was conducted on all backgrounds covering the period of time from January 2016 to the present. As a result of this audit, it was learned, not it was discovered, it was learned that the result of your psychological examination was listed by the psychologist who performed your evaluation as D, not suited. You're not suited this position, but I, as the acting sheriff or the sheriff before me, thought it was okay to, and it sounds like it's this guy who hired. It's like, hey, I hired you. It said you weren't suited to do this. It's catching me completely off guard. Now they're saying that not suited people have to have their badges and their arrest powers taken away from them. Geez, I don't understand that. Really? Why don't you, sheriff? Is it because your IQ has hit the floor too? What's going on? So the sheriff's office has been operating under information provided a number of years ago from Post that we can hire candidates who received a not suited evaluation. Then why even have the evaluation? If after the evaluation, they're going to tell you, oh yeah, 57% of them are not suited, and then you look at those 57%, you still hire them anyway, What's the use of having an evaluation if the people who failed the evaluation get to still have the job? Don't even have an evaluation. Am I reading this wrong? Am I in the twilight zone? Maybe it's my IQ that's suffering here, but this doesn't make any sense to me. Unfortunately, this is not the case. A great deal of research and current advice from both Post and the county council has confirmed that any candidate who is evaluated as D not suited cannot serve as a peace officer in the state of California. You're kidding me. Light bulb. I guess when that California psychological examination said that you weren't suited, maybe I should have taken that as some sort of sign to maybe not hire you. And here we are, finding ourselves in this predicament, and I have no earthly idea why. However, 11 CCR 1955 provides that a candidate who receives a not suited psychological evaluation has the right to obtain a second opinion. If you don't like our psychological evaluation, you can take another psychological evaluation. We'll give you a second chance. You can get your gun back and you can start arresting people and commit roadside piracy like we really want you to do. That guy, it sounds like this sheriff's department, the sheriff needs a psychological evaluation himself based on our criteria, not their own demented, convoluted criteria. So it says that the candidate who receives a non-suited psychological evaluation has the right to obtain a second opinion. And in the event the second opinion is suitable, then the hiring authority, the sheriff, can why didn't you just say me? Because this comes from his desk. Can choose to hire the candidate based on the suitable finding. The sheriff's office intends to schedule you another psychological examination, and you will be contacted by our human resources personnel concerning this examination. You will retain your pay and benefit, and will still work. But in the meantime, our legal counsel has informed our office that you will not be authorized to carry a firearm, and you cannot make arrests. I know this bruises your ego. And this really lets the winds out of your authoritarian sails, but we can't let you make arrests while you're on this probationary period. You can still get the pay, but you can't get the adrenaline rush that comes from abusing people who are mostly innocent. It says they've informed our office that you will not be authorized to carry a firearm and you cannot make arrests based upon probable cause, issue traffic citations, oh darn, or perform any function reserved for peace officers. See, issuing traffic citations and arresting based on what they call probable cause, that would be a red flag in my psychological evaluation. It's like, what are you out there terrorizing people for? You've just failed the Don't hire this guy, because the last, if power corrupts absolutely. This guy who doesn't even have any power shows on his psychological examination that he wants power. Which brings us back to our thought for the day. The danger is not that a particular class is unfit to govern. Every class is unfit to govern. Why? Because human beings tend to abuse power. We know this. And psychopathic human beings tend to fill that power vacuum because they want power. They want to derive that power. They want to exercise that power over somebody else. Why? Because they're psychos. Only a psychopath would want power. Only a psychopath would want to move in on his fellow man and do something to his fellow man with that psychotic power tripper wouldn't want done to him. The state cannot exist without committing the crimes of extortion and robbery, and the agents of authoritarianism are all too happy to exact that extortion and robbery. Your captain will have further conversation with you concerning your interim duty assignments. And then it goes on with this. Let me size this down. How's everybody doing in the room? If you can, give me, if you enjoy this content, hit that like button while I'm trying to size this down so we can actually see this and it's not too big. I need the big writing. Give me the big. I like the big writing. I do like the big writing. So that deputy has been granted a D not suitable in psychological evaluation under state law. Couldn't serve as a peace officer. The letter said that the sheriff's office had previously been operating under the incorrect advice received several years ago from that commission. He said that the deputy can be rehired for a second examination. Our intention is to resolve this as quickly as possible, he wrote. We also intend to have you return to your full duty status once you obtain a suitable finding. I really want to know what the criteria for the psychological examination was, because I bet it doesn't cut the mustard with our standards. because our standards is based on humanity. It's based on a human being interacting appropriately and honestly and justly with another human being. And that is not at all the modus operandi of people who call themselves law enforcers. You know, the word force is in law enforcement. Oh, what do you work for? A police force. Government is not eloquence. Never has been. It's not reason. It's force. And like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. You don't want to be anywhere near somebody who's power tripping on their own authority, because they intend for you to lose and they intend to be on top and win. Kelly said he hopes that the retests would occur in the next 2 months. The test will be conducted by a psychologist who does not work for the sheriff. Well, oh, good. And then it talks about this guy who killed this couple in their Dublin, California home because he was romantically involved with her. This further highlights the egregious levels of dysfunction and corruption that have plagued the sheriff's office for years. And if you look at the bottom line statement for the Mullen Commission, which I should have pulled that up, it's pretty telling what Mullen came up with. Let's see. Mullen Commission findings. Let's see. I hope I can find it real quick, because this Mullen Commission is very telling. Looking at the New York Police Department and trying to find out if there's any criminal activity going on within the New York City Police Department. And that was the wrong question. The question was not, is there any criminal activity going on inside of it? It's, is there any justice at all going on inside of it? It's formerly known as the City of New York Commission to investigate allegations of police corruption and anti-corruption procedure in the police department. Where are the findings? Mullen's mandate was to examine and investigate the nature and extent of corruption in the department, evaluate the department's procedures for preventing and detecting that corruption. It's almost like the New York City Police Department, based on his findings, it was a petri dish to go out of its way to grow corruption. And if you look at the testimonies of some of those police officers, they were in the thick of it, man. That's all they thought about. That's all they did was so that they could nab drugs and grab money and drive fast cars and go out with prostitutes. Which, I mean, you can do that stuff on your own time or whatever, but they were doing this with tax cattle money. And they were actually engaged in promoting the drug war, as they said that they were against the drug war. Which is always a danger when government gets involved to try to protect the public. They always get involved in the corrupt aspect that does the opposite of protecting the public. It's like a cancer. It just metastasizes. It keeps growing. It never stays stagnant. It never goes backward or just stays the same. It keeps advancing. Let's see. I think I'll take over the liver today. I'll take over the spleen the next day. I'll take over the pancreas. Hey, let's go for the large and small intestines today. Cancer doesn't stay stationary, and neither does tyranny. It keeps on growing. Recommend changes or improvements in these procedures. Oh yeah, here we go. Here was the conclusion of his findings. Listen to the specific wording from the Mullen Commission. Today's corruption is not the corruption of the Knapp Commission days. Oh, no. They've upped the ante on that. Corruption then was largely a corruption of accommodation, of criminals and police officers giving and taking bribes, buying and selling protection. They ratcheted that up. It says corruption was, in its essence, consensual. Today's corruption is characterized by brutality, theft, abuse of authority, and active police criminality. This is a commission that the city of New York sanctioned to find out if there was criminality going on in the New York City Police Department. And they said, hey, it's off the charts, man. You thought it was bad under the Knapp Commission? Oh my God, this is this is corruption on a growth hormone scale, man. They're taking stuff that we didn't even know about. They're doing stuff that we didn't even know about. And it's not just buying and selling and bribes and all this stuff. There's brutality. There's theft. There's abuse of authority. There's active police criminality, which is constantly what we're saying. The guy who's getting arrested usually is the innocent guy, and the guy committing the crime is the guy doing the arresting who's wearing the costume. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting atmosphere that we live in today. Don't forget to hit that like button, guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. So we just read that letter. I think we read the rest of this. Let me read this final paragraph right here. Kelly said the department has been under enormous pressure to hire more deputies, and it was hard to find people for the tough job. Oh, yeah, it's such a tough job. You know, when you're trying to bolster your numbers in your gang and your crime ring, your Crips Bloods crime ring there, the thin blue line gang activity, you know, I'm sure it's very hard to fill those positions. I'm sure it's very hard to find psychopaths these days who are willing to steamroll over their fellow human beings. I know that people are going to assume that all these deputies are killers, Kelly said, but that's not true. A lot of them hide it better than the other ones. This test tries to find out if you're psychologically suitable for the job to handle all the horrible things that we see. I want to see that show us the psychological evaluation so that we can evaluate the psychological evaluation and determine whether this is an above board psychological evaluation that should be applied to police officers who are going to claim to protect and serve the rest of us. At age 22, sometimes you're not. I know this isn't good, but it's not as bad as it sounds talking about this guy right here who offed this lady and her boyfriend or whatever. But I just wanted to show you that because 47 deputies have been stripped of their guns in Alameda County, but I want to know what criteria they use to actually do that, because I bet it's a criteria that doesn't meet our standards. Not even close. Not even close. I've got 2 videos in the hopper, guys, and I'll release them as soon as they, monetize them. It's still, it's still waiting for monetization. I'll tell you, it just takes so long to do these videos right here. I just don't want to release it without, getting something back from the YouTube thought police. So I got those coming up, and I've got another video that should be up in the next couple days that you're really going to want to take a look at. I really appreciate you guys being here. Let's see if I missed any. Nope, 0 super chats. Okay, guys, appreciate it. Thank you for everything that you've helped this channel accomplish. I think we're closing in on 53,000 subscribers. I don't know what it's at right now, but I really appreciate the channel growth. I really appreciate the interaction. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for everything you guys have done for this channel and for me and for my family. There was something that I wanted to show you before I left, and I can't remember what it was. Well, if I think about it, I might just do a quick live stream again. Thank you, guys. I will see you in the next live stream. Don't forget to hit like on the way out. It's much appreciated, and it really does help me combat the algorithms. Remember, guys, the danger is not that a particular class of people is unfit to govern. Every class of people is unfit to govern. If you want freedom, you got to fight for it. And if you think that you're going to remain ignorant and free, you're desiring what never was and what never shall be. I'll see you guys in the next live.